What's happening, people? Scarfy's First Look here, back with another one of these weekly live shows, Monday 8 p.m. And I just get the feeling this is going to be a special one. You don't want to see the Fulham and Chelsea game. We know that Fulham are going to turn over Chelsea. You might as well watch the highlights later or next weekend again on Match of the Day. This is the place to see. We're going to get it all into the game, the win, all the controversial decisions, and to make it even more spicy, I've got a Liverpool fan as well here in Jamie. So without further ado, let's crack into it and introduce today's fabulous panel, starting with the fabulous Karl, who hosted the show. Thank you very much. In my absence, I was invited to another show. To that opportunity, and the magnificent Karl stepped in, and I really enjoyed the show. Travis, you're on it as well. So yeah, Karl, massive thank you for hosting. How have you been?
Yeah, it was a pleasure to do it for you, mate. Not a problem at all. And yeah, life's good as a Spurs fan at the moment, isn't it? You know, no more dull football matches, and these podcasts become something you actually enjoy doing rather than a bit of a chore.
Absolutely spot on once again. Thank you, Karl. And it's nice to be, positive sessions instead of what it was therapy sessions for the majority of last season. Travis, fresh from last week on the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, really well, thank you. Karl, well done for doing the show last week. Absolutely fantastic.
Good, wasn't it?
Taking a step into Harry's footprints. Obviously great result over the weekend. Another 3 points, lovely jubbly. Love to turn that lot over. So yeah, very happy Tottenham fan at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my job's under threat considering how well Karl done. So I better be on it this week, that's for sure.
Not yet, mate. Not yet.
Wow, you never know. Benjamin's gone for a minute, so I introduce a Liverpool fan I've done shows with on Unite Radio before. Jamie, how you doing? I mean, obviously not the result you wanted, but how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling all right. I mean, hopefully we can continue better in the next few games. I mean, that game was just appalling. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But thank you for having me on, mate, and it's a pleasure.
No worries. It's great to have you on return the favour. You've obviously done a lot with the interviews you've done over the past year or so. So massive thank you for that. And Benjamin will be back later. He may be having Wi-Fi issues. I don't know. Big up to everyone in the chat listening live on YouTube. Big up to that Spurs podcast and even all Community Spurs. And we'll get through the rest of the comments later in today's show. But if you are listening live on YouTube, don't forget to smash the subscribe button if you like what you're seeing. Leave a like, get involved in the comments throughout today's show. We will read your comments, we'll discuss. There's a lot that went on, so yeah, give us your thoughts. If you are listening after on any other podcast platforms such as Anchor or Spotify, don't forget to give us a follow and a 5-star review. And I'm happy to say that in the coming days, all podcasts will be available on Apple Music and Amazon Music, so it's available wherever you get your podcasts. I think that's quite exciting. But without further ado, let's crack straight into it. I'm going to come to you first, Karl. Thinking before the game, thinking about the lineup. Obviously, there was one change, wasn't there? There was Richarlison coming in for the injured Johnson, and said, was it Thursday, Friday, that Johnson would be out. So were you surprised to see Richarlison start, or did you expect it?
Do you know what? I was quite surprised because I thought if Johnson obviously wasn't going to make the game, I thought he probably would revert to Solomon being out there again, who offers, that width and that ability to take players on. But maybe Ange obviously assumed that he thought it was the right time to get Richarlison in. And to be honest, if we're going to see Richarlison, I think that side of him being in the front three is probably his best side if he's not going to be the main striker. We have tried him on the right-hand side before and it hasn't worked. So, I thought brave decision not to go with Solomon again, but one that kind of worked in the first half. And, towards the end of the game, I think Richarlison kind of tailed off a little bit as the game went on, but he started it brightly enough. But you can't have no complaints with the lineup, can you? At the moment, there's no need for us to make drastic changes to a side that's winning and playing well. So there was never going to be, major changes in that team, and it doesn't deserve to be right now.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, Karl. Thank you very much. Love the hashtag, by the way, Travis. I've just noticed for anyone listening after any podcast platform can't see it. It does say I'm loving Big Ange instead, aren't we all? Travis, talk to me your thoughts on the lineup before the game. Were you surprised to see Richarlison start? Did you expect it? Yeah, what do you think?
Do you know what? I was absolutely delighted to see Richarlison start. Obviously, Brennan Johnson. I think he got a knock in the Arsenal game. But yeah, I think, his confidence will only grow and grow. Obviously, he needs to get a few goals under his belt. But yeah, I was really happy to see him start, and I thought he played really, really well. Obviously, getting the assist for Sonny. Absolutely blinding game. He just needs some more game time and hopefully get some goals under his belt, and he'll be flying, I think. So yeah, I can't knock the line up at all. Again, obviously starting Pape Matar, it's good to be seeing him get some more game time. Obviously waiting for the injured Bentancur to come back. They are saying at least another 2 months. But with the way we're playing at the moment, I don't have any worries at all, really. So yeah, all positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Travis. Jamie, what do you make of the Liverpool lineup? Obviously, for me anyway, I don't know about you, but there was a couple of surprises in there, likes of Nunez, Alexander-Arnold not starting, Konate not starting. Yeah, so was there any surprises in there for you, or did you expect that lineup?
Well, in terms of Konate and Trent, they were both injured, so I wasn't really surprised in that. But I think it's a disgrace, to be honest, that Nunez wasn't starting. And you could take the mick out of that. But seriously, even when he wasn't scoring last season, he was still providing what we needed. He was still a threat in some way. And you talk about Richarlison getting the assist for Son. That's what Nunez was doing last year. And it's just a real shame.
Well as well.
We just look at Gakpo and there's no life in him. He just seems a bit of a dead guy. I understand he did score, but I think Nunez would have scored more than him anyway. So it's just a shame in that respect.
Okay, fair enough. There you go. So yeah, there was pretty expected lineups, you could say, on both teams. But it did surprise me that they didn't get off the bench, because I think he can be a big player for Liverpool this season. Let's get straight into the first major talking point of the game, because we don't waste any time here, and that is the red card that saw Curtis Jones. So Travis, coming back to you, was it a red card, and do you like to see them being given?
Do you know what? We see him given, and I know we've spoken about VAR and fourth officials in previous podcasts. Again, it's not consistent enough. To me, I think it's very unlucky. But again, his studs were showing, and that's unfortunately the modern day football game we play now. So yeah, but again, I could go on forever and ever about VAR and fourth officials and their terrible decision making. But yeah, I think Liverpool were very unfortunate to get that red card. But as I say, with the way the football the game is now, I think that unfortunately that's just what happens.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I think it's a sort of consistency we're all looking for. Karl, talk to me about that red card for Jones. I was there in person. At the time, it didn't look like anything bad, but obviously you see it on slow-mo. I understand everything's worse on slow motion on the screen, and it obviously didn't look good. So what did you think?
Yes, I'm surprised at the amount of people that have come out saying they don't think it is a red card. Because for me, I think it is one of those tackles that unfortunately in the modern football is a red card tackle. If you go in stud showing, whether you get the ball or not, if you go over the top of the ball and, if Basuma's got his leg planted and he goes through with more force, it is a leg breaking tackle, unfortunately. And that is the tackle we want to see kind of outlawed. And I was very surprised watching the game, because Gary Neville, I think for 10 minutes kind of lost it during the match commentary with how he was going mad about this red card and trying to make out that he's trying to trap the ball. And it's like, listen, he's gone over the ball, studs up into the top of a geezer's leg. That's a red card tackle, I'm afraid. And one of the things I think we need to get out of as well is people seem to think that there's this automatic excuse. That is, but he wasn't meaning to hurt the player. But it doesn't matter. That doesn't necessarily mean that unless your intent is to go out and break a leg, which I'm sure no footballer intends to go out on a football pitch and break somebody's leg.
Yeah.
But that's not the excuse that you can just allow whatever tackle happens in a game because, but he didn't mean to hurt him. No, I'm sure he didn't. But it was a tackle that, for me, in the modern football, is a red card offence. Now, where I think the problem comes is that when the official gets asked to go and look at the monitor, the first image he's given is the one of his studs right in his leg. And he didn't get shown the full replay. And once he sees that first image of where his studs are in Basuma's leg, we all see it at that point and think, well, yeah, it's a red card if you look at that. But he wasn't shown the full build-up into the tackle. And that's where I think VAR just isn't helping themselves, because people will say, but when you show just that one image, the referee immediately looks at that and straight away goes, that's a red card. Now show him the full incident and play it in full, he might have then gone, but he did try to get the ball. So maybe it wasn't but they didn't show him that. And I think that's where VAR's let themselves down. But for me, it was a red card, and I don't think there can be too many complaints about that one. The second one, which we'll talk about later, I massively have a problem with that one.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, we'll definitely get onto it. And obviously the statement that's been released as well. We'll get on to all of that later. Jamie, though, I do want to know your honest thoughts, to be fair, as a Liverpool fan. So what were your thoughts at the time that the tackle was made, and then when you saw it back, and obviously, how do you feel about it now?
Well, firstly, I completely agree with Travis. There's been so much inconsistency across every game. And I saw an image the other day of Oliver Skip, I think it was, last year at Anfield. He did something similar, and his foot was even higher. But if we're looking at that in that sort of frame, I was surprised when he got a yellow card at first, because when I'm watching the game, sometimes you don't really pay attention. I was a bit like, maybe just a foul. Maybe it was a yellow card. But in terms of when I saw it back, of course it's going to look worse in slow motion. You have to expect that. But in terms of his foot going into Udogie, what can you expect? He's going for the ball, and then where's his foot meant to go? I mean, it's gone so quickly. It's happened in a matter of seconds. His foot is trying to go on the floor, and obviously you say he's not meant to go and try and hurt him. Of course he's not, but at the same time, yes, his studs were up, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe he was harsh to get a red. Maybe some referees would have let him off a bit, but it was a red card.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Love the honesty. Thank you very much, Jamie. For me, I completely agree. It's the consistency we're looking for. And on a general scale, that is probably something that I personally want to see given. And Jones, I fully believe, like Karl said, no footballer goes in without wanting to hurt a player or he's going for the ball. You can see that. He's just gone in and he's taking a risk, which thinking about it, he probably, if he thought again, he wouldn't have done. His leg's really high, halfway up his leg. And at the end of the day, it is a really dangerous tackle, not what he went in for, but it is that consistency we're looking for. Because if that we know if that happens in a different game this weekend, it's probably just given as a yellow. So it's just that consistency we're after from officials in general. And I just think, however many times it's mentioned, there just seems to be no consistency for whatever reason. But moving on to the game itself. So our opening goal is followed, obviously, Liverpool's red card. Obviously, I was there myself. The atmosphere was good. That red card, fans were encouraging us to go out and get the first goal, and we did. Assist from Richarlison, 36 minutes. Travis, talk to me about your thoughts at the time the ball hit the back of the net. How did you feel? Do you think we could go on and win the game at the time, going 1-0 up? How happy were you?
There was pure limbs. I can tell you that. I was actually out at the time, and I was watching it on my phone. I was dancing around like an absolute pony, and everyone was like, "What is this guy doing? It's Tottenham Hotspur. This is what he does to you." But listen, I was absolutely ecstatic, and I always knew I would have taken a draw, but again, with the way we played again, I knew. The thing that got me is how Liverpool went down to 9 players, and we really made hard work of it. It's like we were still playing against 11 players, and that was the concern for me. But they put every single player behind the ball, and fair play to Liverpool. They really, really kept their shape really well. But yeah, I'm a Tottenham fan that goes mad every time the ball hits the back of the net anyway. So
I love that. I think with all football fans, I just don't get what the point of the celebration police is, because football is a sport we all love, and surely you're allowed to celebrate when your team scores, your team wins. It's like, I'll never forget, I get loads of stick for Arsenal fans, myself in general, for over celebrating, etc. But I seem to remember in 2021, 2-0 down at half-time against Palace, drawed it back in the 97th minute to get a 2-2 draw, and they acted like they won the league. Last season, December, they won the top of the league trophy in December, so it's worrying, really. But no,
I love seeing football supporters going off on one on Twitter, really, really laying into us Tottenham fans. It's brilliant. I mean, there's some abuse on there which is way below the belt from what I've been reading. I've kind of had to take myself away from that, but they get so wound up, and it's so funny to see, especially the Arsenal fans. It's comedy TV, and I love seeing that lot get wound up. There's nothing better.
They get rattled as well, and apparently, I don't know how true it is, so I don't talk about that much. But there was a survey that was done today about who are the clueless fans, something like that, and Arsenal topped that, so that also made me chuckle earlier. Believe it or not. Karl, talk to me your thoughts when the ball hit the back of the net. Richarlison getting that assist, Son scoring. He couldn't really miss in that position. So, yeah, where were you at the time and what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the red card suddenly gave us a little bit more confidence, didn't it? Because you then suddenly think, right, 10 against 11, at home, hopefully we can really, put them to the sword now. And then obviously getting that goal, you kind of just think, right, well, that's it. Now they're down to 10, that they might struggle here. We're forgetting that, although Richarlison will get the assist, the ball from Maddison is, just sublime again to put him in, because that is the eye of the needle sort of stuff. And that is, again, the kind of play that we've been missing over the last few years, since maybe Eriksen left, a player that can cut a defence in half with a ball like that. So, you had to give a lot of the credit to that goal goes to Maddison for the pass. Richarlison does well, keeps a cool head, could have easily rushed it in that position, tried to shoot, but he doesn't, does the right thing, squares it to Son, who thankfully, a bit like the Arsenal goal, bit more quicker on his feet than the defenders, bit quicker reaction times. And yeah, he has a tap in the end. And like I say, when they scored that goal, you're not thinking, right, this is it, this should be easy, because Liverpool, I think, had shown enough going forward that they'd still trouble us slightly. But you thought 1-0 up, hopefully now we'll take the game away from them. And, thankfully in the end, we were able to get that last minute winner.
Yeah, absolutely. So glad we were as well. We will definitely get into that. Jamie, as a Liverpool fan, talk to me your thoughts when the ball hit the back of net. Obviously, you just had that red card, Curtis Jones, a few minutes later. Obviously, Tottenham get the first goal. How did you feel? Do you think that this game could be taken away from Liverpool? Yeah, talk to me your thoughts at the time.
Well, firstly, I mean, we're looking at 4 red cards in 7 games. We had one last year from Darwin Núñez against Palace, which of course was a red card. But we're looking at, we're talking about reaction time here. Van Dijk, arguably one of the best centre-backs in the world a few years ago, probably still up there. But for me, he's just dropped somehow. Overnight, he's dropped. I don't know if it was that injury a few years ago. But you've seen Quanch, the young player that's coming to the team. He's been an absolute beast. And I would have picked him over Matip any day of the week. And we saw, with the open goal for Son, who was there? The closest player to the ball was Virgil van Dijk. And this has happened, and I keep pointing it out every time I'm watching. We seem to concede, and Van Dijk's just not putting his body across the ball to try and block it out for a corner. What's he just standing there? And obviously, Alisson is an absolute god of a goalie, but you can't expect him to save everything. And that, again, like you say, Maddison, again, just a blind player. He's a really, really world-class player. And Postecoglou is bringing the best out of him. We've seen it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much, Jamie. So then moving on to the Liverpool equaliser in the 4th minute of stoppage time through Cody Gakpo, which was resulting in his own personal cost, because he got injured after that, had to come off and was replaced by Jota. We'll get into what that meant later as well with Diego Jota. But because obviously, Gakpo came off at half time. But so Jamie, coming back to you, what were your thoughts on the time of the equaliser? Did it give you your confidence? Obviously, because there's nothing better, is there? Let's face it. If you're a fan of your team scores just before half time.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I thought it would be a bit of a boost, but I wasn't expecting anything amazing. I was like you said, I would hope for a draw out of the worst situation. But again, going down to the 9 players is just unbelievable. But in terms of Gakpo, he missed a huge chance only a few minutes later, so he had to score that chance. And again, you say it was a personal error, him injuring himself, but he made a bit of a mess of it. I mean, he was like trying to have 4 touches in the box or whatever he was trying to do. He could have hit it first or second time. It's as simple as that. Yeah. And with Núñez, he would have absolutely whacked the ball. He probably would have broken the net, metaphorically. You know what I mean? Or Salah would have taken the chance first time. So Bosley, it's just Gakpo, like I say, he's just ability. He's getting there, but it's not what I was expecting from a player that cost quite a lot of money.
Okay, fair enough. Karl, talk to me your thoughts. Obviously Liverpool got that equaliser. How did you feel going in at half time? Obviously 1-1, Liverpool just scored before the break. Was that the confidence go?
A little bit, yeah, because as I say, even when we went 1 up and they're down to 10 men, we'd seen a week or so before when they played Newcastle that doesn't mean Liverpool are out of the game and that they're not going to be dangerous. And obviously, it's a bad time to concede, isn't it? Towers are up, but then just before half time you concede, and that they're going to be able to go in, regroup, suddenly set the game plan for the second half and see if they could repeat what they did at St James's. So it was a worry. It was disheartening, but thankfully it didn't cost us in the end. And I think, Gakpo going off at half time, that kind of would have unsettled them as well, because I think they were just starting to get into their groove, and, he was finding his feet as the game went on. I say he did have a couple of reasonable chances before that already. But yeah, it was disappointing to concede, and it did start putting that element of doubt that, this game isn't over. Just because they're down to 10 men doesn't mean this is going to be a formality.
Yeah, absolutely. And an unfortunate score update, because remember, if people are listening after on any podcast platform, this is filmed live on YouTube Monday night, and that is Chelsea 2-0 up against Fulham, believe it or not, inside 19 minutes. So they've had a very quick start. It's probably because I said they were going to get turned over. So that looks like it's gone all wrong, put it that way. But Travis, focusing on, let's forget Chelsea, because let's hope they still fall apart. So focusing on the positives. Yeah, talk to me about when Liverpool got that equaliser, because obviously, I don't know if you're still out at the time, but you got the notification. What was your reaction when you saw that just before half time as well?
For me, obviously, it's squeaky bum all time, every time, because I think with Tottenham, we get a bit comfortable with how a scoreline is, and I think we kind of take that for granted quite a few times. That's how we get caught out. So yeah, massive worry for me. And my adrenaline was building up by the second that scoreline was 1-1. But yeah, it's just happy with the 3 points.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, Jamie.
No problem.
If forgive you, I'm sure. We also, Jamie, you put a comment in. I think it was before you knew you were coming on, and we're definitely going to get back to this later, because I'm not happy with this. Frauds. So we will get back to that if anyone wants to hang around. I'm sure Jamie will explain himself later. He better. But Karl, coming back to you. So the other red card, Diego Jota. Let's discuss both tackles in one. The first one was obviously Doku was breaking away. It was very, I can't see much contact, but anyway, there's very minimal contact. Still, for me, unclear how much of an impact that had on the Doku, because also he collides his legs. So firstly, what do you make of the first Jota yellow card? Do you think it was harsh?
Yeah, the first one is a disgrace, isn't it? And it's one of them that, yes, in real time, and yet as a referee on the pitch, in real time, you may think, okay, yeah, the player's breaking away and he's fouled him. But this is where I do get annoyed with VAR, because these are the sort of instances that I'd like to see VAR stepping in and actually having an impact on a game. Once you see that replay and you see, well, Jota doesn't even touch him. The way that Adoji falls is his boot clips Jota's knee, no foul, and then just, hits his foot onto his own leg. And then that's when he falls. I don't understand. I know VAR doesn't get involved in yellow cards decisions, but I just think that's wrong. At that point, I don't see why a VAR official can't watch that replay and in the ear of the referee, without stopping the game, without needing to do anything drastic, but just say to him, by the way, we've just reviewed that incident and he never fouled the bloke. That shouldn't be a yellow card. So when the game next stops, you just need to rescind that yellow card because it wasn't a foul. And when the ball next goes out or the ball goes dead, the referee can then just go up to him and say, by the way, that's rescinded, wasn't a yellow card, we've seen it. And VAR has then stepped in and had a positive impact on the game. And it doesn't need to stop the game. It doesn't need to do anything drastic. So the first one is an absolute disgrace of a decision when you consider it can be reviewed. And these are the sort of incidences that I think, this is where you'd want to see VAR step in, because yes, Jota's stupid when he makes a second tackle, but if he's not on that first yellow card, which he shouldn't have been, then he only picks up his first booking of the game. And then who knows where that game goes from that point. So,
yeah, absolutely.
They're really frustrated with that.
His second yellow then, Karl, because obviously Jota knows he's on a yellow. He's going in there.
Yeah,
he's really stretching. What do you make of that?
It's a stupid tackle to make when you know you're on a yellow card already, isn't it? Because you've already seen in the game that the ref is going to issue cards for that sort of tackle. So knowing you are now on a yellow, you have to play the game differently, don't you? And you can't afford to risk putting yourself in, especially when you know as well you're already down to 10 men as it is. There you've got to be squeaky clean at that point. So yes, you can't. Jota, does have to hold his hands up and apologise to his teammates for that, because it was a stupid decision. But ultimately, it's the first booking that's really cost him. And these are instances I just actually, this is where I want to see VAR getting involved and having an impact, rather than just basically going, well, we can't do nothing because it was a yellow card. Well, a yellow card's still an important thing in a game of football. So, for me, it's just not good enough. And you can understand quite rightly why Liverpool are frustrated at that decision.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Travis, talk to me about Jota's obviously red card. He obviously got 2 yellow cards, which resulted in the red. So, if you can remember, talk to me about both of his yellows. Do you think overall it was justified? He got the red card?
Yeah, I mean, I think he lost his head a little bit, and obviously he's thrown whoever it was, I can't remember who it was now, to the floor. And obviously he was on a booking already. He's lost his head. And I mean, the thing I've noticed with referees is they're literally giving yellow cards out for fun now. I think most teams are getting every player booked on their team now, even for the slightest of challenges. It's good to see them cracking down. They are being a bit more authoritative with it. But massively red card. He's lost his head. He's lost his composure. Off you go. Ta-da.
Fair enough. Thank you, Travis. Short and sweet review. So, Jamie, I really do want to hear your thoughts on this, and I know a lot of people will in the chat and listening and watching as well, wherever that may be. Talk to me about both decisions. Obviously, both yellows.
Well, we look at them and we look at these footballers. We look at Neymar. We look at Jota. Don't know how much they're earning, but they're earning too much money, right? Especially for a challenge that's going in like this. The first thing you should know when you're a child. Look, I made a few fouls the other day when I was playing football, and then from then on, I got a warning from the referee. I was told if I do another one, I'll get a yellow card. So I didn't do any more stupid challenges. I'm playing the game safe. And yes, these players aren't getting fined personally for them, but when you get a red card in the way Jota did, you have to be fined. £25,000 isn't even going to touch his bank account. He shouldn't be playing for weeks, and that's after the red card has come out of action. And we look at the first yellow, and like Cole said, there needs to be some sort of VAR officiations going on in terms of yellow cards, because yellow cards can affect the game. Less than 2 minutes later, then Jota lost his head and made that horrendous slide tackle, which that in itself is a dangerous challenge. Whether the first one was or wasn't, that's a dangerous challenge. But we look at the first one. No way on earth is that a card. And you have to look when we talk about the other goal later for the other red card. Whatever happened with the VAR, I completely forgot. It's gone out of my mind. But in terms of them looking back at the game, and then after that, for the Diaz goal, they can't look it back once the game's been in play. Well, they should be able to, because in a mistake like that, it's unlikely. But in a mistake like that, there should be some sort of leeway within a 5 or 10 minute period that can be withdrawn and send them off, or take the card away, and that's not a foul. That's how it should be.
Yeah, fair enough. To be fair, I can't actually disagree with that. So moving on, I want to talk about Liverpool's disallowed goal, because this was the obvious one, wasn't it? Where football fans combined to agree where this is it should have been a goal, simple as that. Obviously you got the apology, immediate contact after the game to Liverpool. They put it down to human error. Coming to you, Karl. So what do you make of that? And do you think it is right and fair that the likes of Howard Webb, the VAR system, are under a little bit of pressure about this?
Yeah, I mean, listen, for all we can want to laugh and joke, and it's worked in our favour this week, and we can sit back and go, oh, ha ha, it's not against us. Ultimately, it's going to be decisions like that are turning people off of the VAR technology. And what we have to remember is it's not the technology that's at fault here. It purely was the officials that are using it. And where I think we have to make questions in this sort of stuff is when a blatant error like that has happened, someone there in that VAR office as the officials, or where they're sitting in Stockley Park, must know, we've just dropped a real clanger here, And like as we say, you need to have officials that have the guts or the freedom to feel like they can actually say, well, hold on a minute, guys. We've made a real mistake here. We need to go back and rectify that. You know, even if the game, let's be honest, even if the game, if they'd taken the free kick, but straight away the referee blew his whistle and said, well, hang on, we need to go back here because I've just been told we've made a mistake. That goal should actually stand. Yes, I know in the stadium as Spurs fans, we'd have all been going, oh, what's going on here? But if the right decision has been made and the right outcome has been achieved, that is the whole point of VAR. And we'd rather someone hold their hands up and say, we made a mistake, we need to go back and rectify that, than just sit there and go, we've dropped a real clanger. Oh, well, never mind. Don't worry about it. We'll just apologise afterwards. Because as we know, the apology means nothing to Liverpool right now. Whereas if they'd gone 1-up in that game, you don't know where that game then goes after that. And, you know, that could be points that could stop them winning a title. And as much as for us, it's kind of funny because we've been on the good end of that decision, we have to remember next week we might be on the wrong end of a decision like that. And these decisions shouldn't be being made by the officials. And we start to need officials that have actually got the gumption to hold their hands up at the time if a mistake's been made and rectify those mistakes pretty much as they happen. But you know, a massive error, miscommunication, and one that we do need to make sure there needs to be something to sort of stomp this out at a game, and that these real bad VAR decisions don't keep happening. Because I like VAR. I think it's got its place in the game. And if we didn't have VAR tomorrow, the first incident that happened in a game where there was no VAR and a team scored a goal that should have been offside, we'd all be screaming for VAR again. So it's got its place. But we need to make sure we're using the technology right, and the people using it are on the ball and they know what they're doing and they've got some confidence to stand up. And if they make a mistake, accept it, but rectify it.
Absolutely. I'm just going before I get Jamie and Travis's views on this. I also very quickly give my opinion with VAR. See, VAR was brought in. The term was for clear and obvious errors. I think we can all agree that is a clear and obvious error. I can understand the linesman missing that because it happens. That is human error. I understand even maybe who was on VAR missing it at the time. I understand that. Perhaps they've had a busy week, etc. I mean, it's not great. Okay, they've missed it. But it's when you have a VAR assistant as well, his job is to pick up any mistakes. He has nothing else to do in the game apart from give his opinion. So surely he's got to tap him on the shoulder because it was 35 seconds before the game restarted again. That's enough time. To tap him on the shoulder and go, hang on a minute here, I'm not sure. Can we check this again? Because yes, I'm someone who's for quick decisions, but if it takes longer, fine, as long as you reach the right decision. It's the problem with, I think over the years now, it's been taking a long, long while and we're still getting to the wrong decision. So yeah, it really frustrates me because VAR is a great idea, but it's been used by the wrong people in the wrong way. It's getting involved in silly things like stupid offside. Forget this game, silly offsides and silly things that disallow, but clear and obvious things like Onana when he took out 2 players against Wolves, all that clear and obvious offside. It's not sometimes not even checking it, which it does really, really does concern me. It's that consistency. We're all after. So Jamie, talk to me about that. I mean, you must be livid. I can understand. So. I personally don't mind because we're on the right end of it this week, but it does have its swings and roundabouts. So talk to me your thoughts about it, and can you understand this error? Do you have any sympathy for the officials?
Well, I've got a lot to say about the whole game in itself, but in terms of any sympathy, absolutely not, because we saw, I don't know if you lads knew, but Darren England and Dan Cook officiated in the Middle East on Thursday, and then they travelled 8 hours back into London to officiate for Liverpool versus Tottenham. And that's poor, because I don't know if these referees are doing 2 sides of work. I don't know if they're doing the FA in England and then the Saudi Arabia. I don't know how it completely works, but for them and themselves, and they're going to think from a logical point of view, regardless of any money that's being involved, because of course they're going to accept the money if they're getting well paid. And that's the aim. They want to get English referees over there to train up the Saudi Arabian and the Qatarian people and the coaches and the referees to improve them on the game. But how on earth Can we be coaching them how to be referees when we can't referee our own game? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And in terms of any sympathy, no sympathy whatsoever. We saw Karl say about the 1 point that can change the league. I think it happened now 2 seasons in a row in the last 5 years where we've lost the title by 1 point. We saw it against City 2 years ago, and the City, I think 3 or 4 years ago, on the last day of the season. This 1 point could have made a huge difference down the line. We might end up finishing 10th. We might end up finishing 5th. But wherever we finish, that point is going to make a difference. That's affected the mentality. And now VAR, you look at the Champions League, for example, they take their time with it. They take a few minutes. And we do complain because it is annoying. But then we also don't see the additional time added on, which we do in the Premier League. So hopefully that changes. But in terms of them taking their time, they usually make the correct decisions. And I'm looking at 2 different things here. I'm looking at the Champions League offside with the arms, with their actual bodies being shown, and there's like a wall. But then we're seeing lines here that aren't even being drawn. I mean, there should be the same system being used, exactly the same system every single time, that the referees go from start to finish to award the goal, disallow a goal, give a red card, give a yellow card. It should all be done the exact same way and not just a lazy thing. Don't draw the lines. That's just the most pathetic thing to be saying. Are we doing? You know what I mean? It's just awful.
Yeah, to be fair, once again, agree. Again, it's all about that consistency, consistently doing it and sticking to what's right. And just the lines aren't drawn. It's just bonkers, really. I understand it's tight, and sometimes you make a mistake, but when you employ a VAR assistant to spot those mistakes or investigate them, because you can clearly see that it's anyone from a blind eye can, if they look back in it for more than 5 seconds, can see that he is onside. But Travis, I want to bring you in on this. So what do you make of this decision and VAR in general?
Can I say absolute quality rant here, Jamie? I completely agree with what you said.
Cheers.
Absolutely spot on, mate. Yeah. I could go on forever about VAR and this awful technology that they use. The thing that gets me with VAR is they're not even there. The referees are there. They're using video technology to try and work out whether it's a penalty, a red card, a yellow card. You know, and I think it's completely killed the game. I think if anyone's going to make a decision, it should be put on to the referee first, who is actually watching the game in real life. You know, that they slow these fouls down.
Travis, sorry, mate, it's not the technology, is it? We can't blame the technology. The technology is brilliant. The fact that we can see these incidents, it's the people using it and the fact that the decisions that they're coming to. Because if you get rid of that technology and next week, let's say later in the season, Spurs are in a final and a goal gets scored that hits a player's hand and he almost pushes it in, but we don't have no VAR, we're going to be up in arms, aren't we? Going, well, we've been robbed of a cup win here. So I think we have to say the technology, it's the people it's the way it's being implemented that's the problem.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'll correct myself there. Thanks for saying that, Karl. It is the people, and as I say, it should just be down to the referee. I think VAR should have the people should have some sort of input, but it should be solely down to the referee who is refereeing that game on that day, and that's it. With the VAR. Again, the decisions are absolutely atrocious because I don't think the Luis Diaz goal was offside. I think that goal should have stood. But it's decisions that are just killing the game. You know, I'll go back as far as the Champions League final against Liverpool. You know, the Sissoko handball. You know, we could argue till we're blue in the face, and we could go on and on and on and on and on till we find some sort of conclusion. But because of the way VAR is run, I don't think there ever will be a conclusion.
I think the biggest problem as well with VAR, isn't it, at the moment, is we're asking people, all these things are subjective, aren't they? And different people, if you put 100 referees in a room and showed them a tackle, 80 might say they think it was a free kick. 20 will say, well, no, I don't think that's a free kick. And this is one of the problems, isn't it? We're asking VAR to get involved with something that someone's got to give an opinion on. Now, where I agree with Travis, one thing that might change VAR and make it work for the better is, apart from offsides, if there's something's got to be reviewed, let the referee go and view it and make his decision based on the replay. And he can then say, because what we'll find then is if you've got a referee who keeps dropping clangers, you know it's this one individual rather than loads of different individuals in a room telling a bloke in his ear. If he can go and view something and he says, right, okay, show me that again. No, I'm happy with my decision. I'm sticking with a penalty there. Then if it's obvious that it's an obvious clanger, it's that referee that probably needs additional training rather than 3 or 4 different people in a room who've all got a different opinion on what they think they've seen.
Yeah,
Absolutely
okay,
spot on.
fair enough. Go on, Travis.
Can you imagine Daniel Levy making decisions? We wouldn't get anywhere, would we?
No, we certainly wouldn't. But before we move on, because there's still a lot to discuss, the game, previewing both Tottenham and Liverpool's upcoming game, etc. Questions people put forward as well for the podcast earlier this morning. But I very quickly want to go around the houses and give. I just want one. I know there's probably more than one, but one thing you think can be done right now to improve VAR that you would introduce. Jamie, coming back to you, what's your one thing you would do to improve VAR? It can be scrapping it, by the way, if you do think that.
I wouldn't say scrapping it, but I'd say get the absolute melons out that are running the VAR system. Get some. I've heard about the championship referees. I'm not one to just stare at a referee and see how well they're doing, but I've heard with these championship referees that they know what they're doing a lot more. And whether it's VAR that might change it for them, give them a go. You know what I mean? They can't be any worse.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I've seen Champions League 1 games. It may have only been the games I've seen, but I think officiating in all the English leagues at the moment is an all-time low, personally. So, Jamie, your idea could be, for example, more investment into referees and paying the money to get yourself a good pair, a good bunch of referees instead of choosing options. So there you go. Travis, what would be your one thing you would do to improve VAR?
Make the referee make the sole decisions. And if there's really that much of a problem, and I mean a proper problem, then go to VAR. Solely down on the referee. He's there. He knows exactly what's going on. He knows whether the sun's rising or whether the sun's setting. It's as simple as that, really. So,
yeah, fair enough. So that perhaps be more power to the referees because it's a lot easier, isn't it, to be sitting in Stockley Park than it is as a referee. You have so much more power. I mean, you've got probably a couple of things to talk about in the game. Obviously, Spurs and Liverpool game, there was a lot there. But usually their job, it's a lot harder for the referee. Karl, what would be, if you could choose one thing? For me, I find it hard to narrow it down to one thing. But if you could choose one thing right now, what would it be?
I think transparency. I think about time we started hearing what's actually going on while these decisions are being made. Because I think the one thing that would happen then is if the officials know that everything they're saying is being heard by the supporters in the ground, I think that just sharpens your focus as well. It's like in any job. If you know you're being monitored, you're gonna concentrate more and put more in. I don't like this secret, cloak and dagger. You'll only hear what we want you to hear and when we want you to hear it. Ultimately, if no one's got anything to hide, soon as the decisions are being looked at, we should be hearing what's going on and what's being looked at and what's being discussed, because I think that just would improve the game and improve the way VAR works as such, as a general.
Okay, thank you very much. For me, it'd be miking referees up and releasing that footage every single week. Not when they want to, not when they choose to, what time they choose to. I'd give them, 2-3 hour deadline after the game's finished to publish the footage on the Premier League social media, for example. Just publish it somewhere that everyone can see if they want to, so we know nothing's dodgy going on. Not being funny, that's the only way that we're going to know. But moving on, to the turned out to be the winner for us, and that was in the 96th minute, through an own goal of Matip. To be fair, I thought Liverpool, personally, I thought done really, really well with 9 men. Stuck in there and nearly got a point out of the game and probably unlucky not to. At the same time, you don't plan in training to play 9 men. So I think we struggled to break Liverpool down, whereas it was just 4 or 5 men behind the ball before. It turned out to be 9 men, understandably, because anyone with 9 men would, with common sense, would get behind the ball and part the bus. But it was hard to break them down. We finally went wide through Porro, decent delivery in the box. Vilex was behind Matip. Matip was under pressure, really fast with the ball, tries to get contact on it to get it over the bar and out for a corner. and just doesn't get enough contact in, and it does go into the back of the net. So Travis, talk to me about your thoughts. I don't know where an update. I don't know where you were at the time, but what was your reaction when and if you found out that we'd won the game?
Yeah, I was actually at Carnival at the time, and I was watching it on my phone.
Okay.
There was plenty of people around me going absolutely spare. Yeah, listen, this isn't coming from a Tottenham perspective. This is coming from a footballing perspective, and it happens to all the best defenders in the world. I mean, you look at Romero, it happened against Arsenal the other week. You know, as you say, was under pressure. Porro's whipped in a world-class ball, and it's gone in the back of the neck, back of the net, which happens to the best of defenders, you know. So very, very, very unfortunate on that. Do you know, I actually did feel really sorry for him. You could just see how disheartened and how upset he was. I mean, it didn't stop me from celebrating, but yeah, you know, very, very unfortunate, and you know, they learn from that. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie, talk to me about your thoughts. I mean, you must have thought that you were nearly there. So talk to me about your feeling when you saw the ball hit the back of the net, and how much do you feel for Matip?
Well, I was watching it from home and I was like, come on, boys, we've held it out for 25 minutes. All you got to do, I swear to God, 10 seconds. And I just see this and I was just like, it's classic. It's really classic. The day City drop points, we seem to drop points. But for me, I understand Matip and I do feel sorry for him. No one wants to score an own goal, especially in those circumstances. But it's about time that we need to change up this back line. And it's not because of this game. We saw Gomez, and I really wasn't a fan of him because 3 years ago, he could have got quite a bit of money for him. Now we probably still can, but there's nowhere near as much. I've seen him play replacing Trent. He's not a bad player to have. Certainly not. He's still quite young as well. But when you've got Matip and you've got Van Dijk, who are slowly but surely trailing off, and I don't understand why Van Dijk was given the captaincy in the first place. I mean, it should have been given to Alisson or Robertson. And it's just poor. I think, like, you just see Quanch. And I understand we can't give him every single game. It's going to make him complacent and it's going to make him expect to get a starting lineup. But it is time that we start to play Quanch and we start to play Konate once he's back from injury together, and maybe start to looking at getting rid of Van Dijk and Matip. But there's no disrespect to him. They won us the Premier League and the Champions League. They won us everything. But we can't stay with them forever. We saw with Henderson. We have to get rid of them. And we have to cash in on them. But they're on big wages as well, and we can't afford to constantly be paying them if they're going to be making silly errors like this.
Yeah, I completely agree, Jamie. As a neutral point of view, what could potentially cost Liverpool this season from not beating City, for example, to the title, or not getting close to City, is the defence, because you've gone out there, improved midfield. Szoboszlai looks fantastic. McAllister looks great. That midfield is really, really strong. Up front as well, Gakpo, when he's fit, I mean, he is. I agree with you. I don't think he's a massive goal threat, but he is scoring goals. Salah looks a lot better this season. You got the option, and there's.
I think you're wrong. Sorry, I think you're wrong with Salah. I think 3 seasons ago, we saw Salah. He was like the main man. He was getting up there, and he wouldn't run past 3 or 4 people, but occasionally he would, and occasionally he'd be there as a spark. This year, I'm seeing more of it from Núñez, and I understand Salah was on a big streak of goals and assists, goal, goal. I understand that. But he's not the guy that we can now trust and give him the ball and he can run past people. We saw him. Sometimes he's ghosted in a game. And I say about the goals, he'll get a goal, but he'll get a goal beating the team 4-0, or he scored in the 85th minute. You know what I mean? So he's not the main guy anymore. And I think that's starting to become, I think our team's aging, but we have to start expecting McAllister, Szoboszlai and Núñez to all step up. They're world-class players, and they will be world-class players in a few years.
Fair enough. I thought it was Percy Salah looked dangerous on a counter-attack and causing lots of problems and pinned the likes of Van de Ven in. But yeah, obviously 3 years ago, Salah was the main man and probably isn't now. But I'm sure if it results in trophies for Liverpool, he can accept that. But Karl, talk to me about your thoughts. The ball hits the back of the net. Where were you at that moment in time, and your thoughts, please?
Well, riding high at that moment in time, once that goes in, jumping around the front room. But I thought we'd kind of lost the opportunity, because I thought we kind of looked like we'd just kind of run out of ideas. And especially once Son and Maddison went off, you kind of worried about where the cutting edge was coming from. Because as I say, Richarlison, I didn't think, especially towards the end of the game, was having that great an impact. I thought Kulusevski was poor again, and I think he really needs to start stepping up in what he's doing from what we've seen recently. But yeah, thankfully we have to, thank our lucky stars that, if you put the ball in the right areas, which Porro managed to do, then those sorts of things can happen. A defender can make a mistake, be unfortunate, and ends up in the back of the net. So yeah, you take it though, don't you? You sit there and go, well, yes, you feel for the player, but ultimately at the end of the day, you want the 3 points. And again, I think what's great about it is scoring a goal at that point in the game. It just gives you confidence that you can go to the very last kick of the game and still win a game, no matter who you're playing. So I think it's just going to put us on cloud 9. And you saw the togetherness of the squad once that goal went in. And it's just something that helps keep the momentum building and keeps us on the Ange train at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into the Doki and the racism comments and statement from both Spurs and Liverpool very, very shortly. But before we do so, I'll run a really, really quick discussion on this talking point because I don't want to give it airtime. I personally think it's absolutely ridiculous. And that is the idea of potentially playing the game behind closed doors. But Jamie, as a Liverpool fan, talk to me your thoughts about this. I honestly think it's insane that it's even being suggested, but I want to know your thoughts.
I think it's respectable for Liverpool to call out, just to even make the point of having it behind closed doors and to have the replay. But I think that can't start with that game on the weekend. That has to start next season, or at a point where everyone's on the same amount of games, everyone's got no issues, and they can start together as a team and they can start together as a league to try and say, if this is the case, and it shouldn't be happening regularly, maybe once or twice a season maximum, and it can't be, this player got a red card, hence why we lost, we want a replay. That's not how it needs to work. It needs to work with a situation like this, where the referees weren't mic'd up. It took 30 seconds for them to make a decision, 2 red cards, in a game that was maybe for you guys an amazing game, it obviously was, but a game that didn't seem right to me, and a game that it didn't get all the tick of the boxes in terms of what they needed to do behind the scenes with VAR, but for it to be played behind closed doors, I'd like it, but it's not going to happen, and it shouldn't really be getting suggested at this point.
Okay, thank you very much. Jamie, again, very quickly talk to me about your comment you put earlier.
Well, I meant that in terms of the referees. I mean, I just think I was looking at Simon Hooper, and I was just thinking he's refereed us before. And like I say, I'm not a man to remember everyone and the referees and what they've done, but he's one of them where it's just like, okay, well, you seem to be having an agenda against Liverpool in that kind of way. And I understand everyone says this about referees, and it was just a luck, because I think if the own goal didn't go in and we still had 100 minutes of football, I think the game could have been different. You know what I mean? I think Tottenham were lucky to get the own goal, of course, because if Matip got that out for a corner, unlikely would have scored from that, regardless of the two-man advantage. But yeah, the referees were just frauds, and especially, like I said, the referees going over to Saudi Arabia, it's mental. It shouldn't be happening.
Fair enough. I personally think he had an okay game. I just think he was let down by Stockley Park and the 2 men there. Karl, talk to me about your thoughts of even the idea being suggested it should be replayed again. I mean, surely this happens to every team. There's swings and roundabouts. I mean, I saw a stat today that Liverpool, I'm sorry, Jamie, Liverpool were the second, gained 9 points from VAR last season. So what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can probably reel off about 100 games I'd like to get replayed if we're going to start going down that route, and the Champions League final would be one of them. Yeah, definitely. If there's going to be a winner-takes-all game where that's on the line, then I might be up for it. Yeah, but no, listen, I think, Liverpool, I think what Liverpool are doing is just putting some pressure on the PGMOL with this statement. They know there's no hope that they're going to get the game replayed. And yes, we can't start looking to replay games if there's decisions that teams don't like. It is swings and roundabouts. Liverpool will get their benefit of VAR in the future. They've had it in the past. So I just think they're being a little bit clever with this statement and just wanted to try and pile some more pressure on and get a little bit more support. But there's no chance that game's going to be replayed or they're going to get given a goal that gives them a point. It's just not going to happen. But you're right. I don't think you can blame them for trying to put some pressure on to get the maximum effect that they can.
No way. I kind of agree with the pressure, because I think that at the moment they're getting away with absolute murder. Absolutely. I just don't think, you can't halfway through a season decide to replay a game and not replay the likes of Man United and Wolves. And it'll be a never-ending season if we replayed every time, because we know the amount of mistakes that are being made at the moment. So until the mistakes go, you just can't keep replaying every single game. So Travis, talk to me about the idea about the game potentially being replayed. Do you think it's ridiculous? Can you understand it? Go for it.
Absolutely pathetic. I don't see why. I mean, I think I've always thought fourth officials have always had it in for Tottenham Hotspur anyway. That's my honest opinion. I know Clattenburg hated us when we used to have him as a ref. Obviously, I know he's retired now, but no, absolutely ridiculous decision. I mean, we played games behind closed doors during COVID. The VAR didn't change then. So what's going to change playing it behind closed doors now? We could go through hundreds of games where we've been disallowed goals, not been given penalties, had players sent off, the list is endless, and I think it's such a ridiculous thing to bring into the game. And it's just going to ruin the game because you'll get the bigger teams, obviously, i.e. Liverpool being one, but then you get the Arsenals, the Cities, the Man Uniteds wanting games replayed, and it'll go on and on and on and on. It'll just be another thing brought into our football game that kills the game. That's my opinion on that.
I'm muted. No, that's it. Oh, how many times I do this, it still happens. Where you double click that mic button. Right. So moving on though I want to discuss quickly before we move to individual performances and look at upcoming games. I wanted to talk about, and that is some of the racist comments directed towards Tottenham Hotspur player Destiny Udogie on social media following Saturday's game against Liverpool. Spurs took to social media at exactly 12 p.m. this afternoon, saying we're disgusted at the racist messages directed towards Destiny Udogie on social media following Saturday's game against Liverpool. We'll work with the Premier League and, where possible, take action against any individual we're able to identify, saying we stand with you, Destiny Udogie. And Liverpool also, fair play, made a statement also later on the day saying Liverpool FC condemns all forms of racism and discrimination. Will work with the relevant authorities and social media platforms to help identify those responsible and apply the strongest possible consequences. And as a young person, I just want to say that a lot more needs to be done by social media companies to tackle online abuse, online racism, discrimination of any kind, because there's far too much. There's not been a day, I don't think, gone by on X, as it's now called, where I haven't seen a form of discrimination aimed at an individual or as a collective, and that for me is just shocking. It's people abusing that power to put what they like, and knowing that Twitter at the moment under new ownership, it just won't be tackled. Any reports that put in, nothing is done. So Jamie, talk to me about the two statements that put out and where you kind of stand on this.
Well, we saw when Elon Musk bought Twitter, he made a speech or a statement saying he wants to keep this freedom of speech element. And the statement, I think it was Liverpool that he said, about the strongest possible action is absolute rubbish from every single team, because banning someone from a football stadium, one football stadium, by the way, or if they banned them for all the 20, they could still go to the rest of the other games elsewhere. You know what I mean? And doesn't make them stop being racist or homophobic or whatever they're trying to be doing and trying to just annoyed about the result. And obviously, it's not every single fan, but we saw with the Sunderland fan about 5 years ago who obviously passed away, and coming into the news quite recently, Bradley Lowry, who passed away of cancer. And I watched it when I was young, maybe like 6 or 7, and I was in tears because it's just that in itself, someone passing away, but let alone people the other day making fun of him. You know what I mean? And that's what annoys me. And you see it with the racist comments. Maybe certain stuff should be banned. It should automatically, you shouldn't be able to say it no matter. You should be able to rephrase what you wanted to say if you didn't deem it to be offensive. But in terms of it being offensive, there's no such thing as freedom of speech in an offensive sense. It just doesn't make sense for someone to even if you wanted to say what you wanted to say, to go on social media and comment onto your doggies or anyone's Instagram a certain hate speech or whatever. What's the point? I really don't understand it. Like, why waste your time? The result's done. And your doggy probably doesn't even read his Instagram messages, but he has to, because people like these people are being ridiculous and leaving awful messages towards him and his family and to other people as well. It's just appalling. Yeah,
well said, Jamie. Travis, as a mental health advocate for yourself, I always make time to talk about mental health. We have, haven't we, on several on podcasts. I want to know your thoughts on this, that the abuse, Udoki's received, and how it will affect him, mentally, because he's going to see it, isn't he?
Yeah, there's absolutely zero room for racism in football, and I go by, as you know about this sort of thing, Harry, I'm very passionate, and I go by all abuse that is on social network platforms now. Facebook are quick enough to pick up on things being said and comments that shouldn't be put onto a picture, a comment box, whatever it may be. So I think Twitter or X or whatever it's called now really need to step up their game and stop the abuse online, because people are reading this and it is severely affecting their mental health quite drastically, and I could go on forever on obviously how it is affecting people. That's racism, that's disability abuse, whatever it may be, and I think it's just absolutely disgusting how people deem it correct to sit behind a keyboard and sit there and abuse one person. I think we live in such a sad society now where people think that's okay. And I think from a football perspective, whatever fan you are, I think you need to it needs to be addressed, and they need to be banned from football games and massively fined and completely taken off all social media network platforms completely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to generalise at all, but a lot of people making the comments, for me, not only are they not real fans, I don't think they go to the games. So the ban of the stadium for me means nothing. They've got to be removed of social media, and even more action taken, because they can just do the same thing again and again, like Jamie says, at a different stadium, at different venues. So tougher action needs to be taken, and not only tougher action, but we need to get on with it as well. Like with Twitter, like there was a point where my report would take approximately about 5-6 months to come back, which I found was quite shocking. But now you just don't get them back at all. I don't even think that they're bothering. I don't think it exists anymore, which is for me is just wrong. But Karl, before we move on, so let's go on, Travis. Actually, go on.
I think obviously I go on Twitter on a daily basis, and I think what you do about neurodiversity, autism is absolutely fantastic, and you deserve every bit of recognition you get. You really do. It's absolutely phenomenal what you do, and I think you should be able to put stuff like that on social network to raise awareness, whether it's neurodiversity, autism, mental health, wherever it may be. But unfortunately, again, with the society we live in now, there's so many people on there that will put indirect, nasty, evil, horrendous comments. And it's sad. It really, really is. Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to put that out there.
That's fine.
For people listening, because I think people do need to hear it. They really do. Whether you're people putting the right thing online or put the wrong thing online, they need to hear it. So
they need some lessons.
Yeah, just keep doing what you do.
And I know we're going off topic, but it has to be discussed. Enough is enough. My good friend, an Arsenal fan, a lot of you may know the likes of, his name's gone out of my head. I'll come back to me.
Barnsley.
No, what it is that Arsenal fan Jake, who suffers from mental health, etc. himself, said today that, for example, he's going to leave the app. He gets a lot of support, rightly so. But just because people, have to bring him down. He comes back saying he's feeling a lot better, and you still get that comments claiming he's only doing it for the money, etc., etc. Paul Merson, that's the one who gave him his public support. So things like that are wrong, and you see it. For example, you scroll through TikTok, a lot of people who are leaving, they've done well, become famous, but the hate is just too much. Enough is enough. And listen, last thing, not playing the victim card or anything, because it's a completely other level than Udoki. Because Udoki's a professional footballer, you get so much more of it and read through. For example, I put a video out me the other day at the Spurs game celebrating, and you get immediately attacked for the way you look, the way you speak, the way you dress, and my direct messages went absolutely insane, and there was a bug in the app because there was so many messages. So I just don't understand that in general. But Karl, before we do move on, because it is important, and I do want to give it as much airtime as possible. how do you feel? How do you feel like Doki? How must he be feeling as well right now?
Yeah, well, I'd like to think that ultimately, and Doggy will have the strength of character just kind of ignore those morons and think that they're not worth him worrying about or giving airtime. There will be an effect, but I'd like to think as a young sports professional, he'd hopefully think, well, my life's going in a much better direction than yours. So if you're that pathetic, then so be it. But I think, when we're talking about just banning from football, we need to take it even further than that. Let's take the two lads that are trying to show the picture of the lad who died from cancer at Sunderland. Well, we need to make these guys famous, but for the wrong reason. Their names need to be published. Everyone needs to know who they are. Their companies, if they work for anyone, need to sack them and make sure that they don't have a job. And ultimately, we need to make people aware, if you're going to do this sort of thing on social media, then there'll be a backlash for it. And that backlash will come that you'll almost be blackballed in life. So if you work for a company, they should be informed of what's gone on and what you've posted or what you've done, which then should make them say, well, sorry, you're out the door. Thanks very much. No one else should want to be able to employ these people, knowing that this is what this person's capable and likes to seem to do on social media. And that way, then you've got to make it a big enough deterrent to make people go, not even getting involved in that. Like, as you say, the social media apps as well also need to start clamping down that, there needs to be some form of ID for you to be able to make an account on any form of platform, whether it be a passport, driving license, but some way that an authority can trace that account back to you so that should that account post anything, we just go, well, whose account was that? What passport was used to create that account? Okay, well, we'll go and see that person now. But we have to make the deterrent, make it set the message and set the tone that this isn't going to be acceptable anymore. And unfortunately, as we say, I don't think everyone's doing enough to do that right now.
Could I just say one thing? We're looking at the deterrents in terms. I think there was a Sheffield Wednesday fan banned from the stadium and arrested for something of like 18 months or something. And actually, a few months ago, maybe about a month and a bit ago, I thought of an idea to create a new app. And it's everything you guys are telling me. It's about talking about awareness of everything, every single thing you can think of. But before you sign up to the app, you have to have passport of some sort of identity, so they know who you are. On this app that hopefully one day will become something, I don't want people that are some random user. I want you. I want your personal account, and I want to make sure that an app is safe for everyone, because we're looking at Harry. I mean, unfortunately, he's receiving such a big backlash. I don't know what for nothing. And this is the issue. I mean, I get it at school, and people can make comments to me, and online as well. But for me, it's the same like genre of people that are given the same abuse. And I'm looking at these people and I'm thinking to them, but for you personally, I don't know what you giving abuse at me is nowhere near as bad as what you're achieving in your life. And that sounds quite deep in the sense of just the sense of that. But just I don't get people. I don't get why. And then it's my sort of idea to get over to government about making youth clubs. I mean, we've seen youth clubs up in Norfolk when I got up there. My cousin's enrolled in a youth club himself. But there's not a lot where I live, or a lot in London, or I'm not seeing a lot. And we're seeing a lot of trouble being created, whether it's in person or online. But why are these people not having the access to youth clubs? And that's not the solving of it for everyone. But at least having someone, maybe they need to have someone to rely on. Maybe that's the issue. And youth clubs can help with that. But most importantly, there's no need for racism or any sort of abuse. And social media companies like Elon Musk need to be aware, and they need to be banning these people within a few hours.
Absolutely. Thank you all for your comments on this, because obviously it's a very sensitive but important subject. We obviously all stand with Adoki, and enough is enough. Social media companies need to do more. Myself, obviously nowhere near as big a scale, but I've taken action with my channel 2 Mondays ago, where anyone who comes in here purely debates are fine, discussions are fine, disagreeing, even not liking myself, one of my guests, that's perfectly allowed. You can't be everyone's cup of tea. Absolutely understand that. But if someone comes in here purely just to abuse myself or one of the guests, then they will be banned. Well, they begin a timeout for 48 hours. But if they come back and do the same again, they'll be given a permanent ban and will be named and shamed. on Twitter. So, that is still giving people a chance to redeem themselves, to learn, to come back, realise what they've done wrong. Because I'm someone who's all for second chances, but in terms of this, social media companies need to do more. But moving on, I want to discuss man and match, who stood out, etc. So Travis, coming back to you, I want to know who stood out to you in the game.
I think our midfield is absolutely on fire at the moment. And it's between James Maddison and Yves Bissouma. Again, Yves Bissouma, don't think he put a foot wrong. Again, James Maddison, absolutely solid. But for me, James Maddison.
Okay, thank you very much. You can go with James Maddison. Karl, who's your man of the match?
Yeah, I think, you could look at Bissouma, I think, was up there as man of the match, really controlled that midfield well. But, a player that I'd run a close second to that, because I think he's really excelling in the last few weeks, especially, is Mickey van der Ven. I think this guy is a class act that we've got on our hands. And the way he dealt with players like Salah and, Jota when they came on, he really stood his ground. And just to me, I'm just... what a player he's going to be. But I'd give it to Bissouma for the way he ran that midfield.
Okay, thank you very much. Jamie, who's your man match in the game, Liverpool or Tottenham player?
Well, when Maddison came off the pitch, I was relieved because of what he's done in the past and what he did do in that game. But in terms of from a Liverpool perspective, in the last few games, I've just been absolutely blown away with Dominic Szoboszlai. I mean, I've heard of him. I've watched him when he was in Germany, and his penalties and the free kicks, amazing. And he had a chance against Tottenham the other day where he got it on. He just got it over the bar from an amazing position, well outside the box, smashed it, so much power. But it was on target. You would have thought it would go in. But in terms of overall man of the match, it's got to be Maddison or Bissouma, those two players, which is just unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, fair enough. Szoboszlai does look a very top player and a class bit of business with Liverpool. It has to be said. So there you go. There's lots of players that stood out. For me, Van der Ven's got to be up there. Like you guys say, midfield, Maddison again, very, very important. But now, so moving on, I want to know, focusing on our games coming up, before we get in particular into the Luton game, coming back to you, Karl. So I want to know how many points you think we're going to get out of our next three fixtures. So for anyone who doesn't know, our next three fixtures are Luton away, Fulham at home, then Crystal Palace away. So how many points are we getting, Karl?
I'm going to go brave, and I probably wouldn't have said this last year, but I'm going to go for the full 9, the full house. I think the way we're playing, I think we'll be too strong for Luton, too strong for Fulham at home. Palace will be a difficult game because they're a tough outfit to break down. Yeah. But we owe them one, and I think we've got enough about us to beat them. So, I'll go for 9.
Love the confidence. Travis, you feeling as confident considering I did listen back to the show. You sounded like you thought we were going to win the league last week.
Yeah, I think I made quite a bold statement there, to be fair.
You did indeed.
But we can all dream, as we say, believe. But I'm the same as Carlos, so I'm going to go with 9 points. I think Palace could be a tough game, and obviously we did lose against Fulham in the cup, but the way our fans have been at home, I can't really see us struggling at home. The way the team the way the fans are getting on with the team at the moment it's different, And the end of that game against Liverpool the other day, just watching that stadium the way it was, there's so much happiness in that ground now. So much togetherness, and it's brilliant. It actually brought a tear to my eye, to be fair. Full 9 points, up Spurs.
Love it. Love the confidence. Jamie, as a neutral point of view, how many points do you think Spurs are going to get out of those 3 games? And what do you think Spurs will be fighting for at the end of the season?
Well, you'd like to think they'll be fighting for a cup, and they did bottle it against Fulham. I mean, I was away in Morocco. I didn't watch the game, but it was on in the background. And the FA Cup's coming up in a few weeks, and that's a big game. I want to go and watch an FA Cup game to get the feel of a cup. But in terms of Luton away, I think that's going to be a tough game. I watched some of the game where they played Wolves at home, and it's just one thing, they're so close to the pitch. The fans are so close to the pitch. It might not be the biggest of stadiums, but as they say, it's an old school stadium. And I don't know how much of an allocation there will be for Tottenham fans in terms of the away end, but there will definitely be an outnumbering of Luton fans compared to Tottenham fans. And Luton fans, knowing their win against Everton the other day, which obviously is a great win as a Liverpool fan against Everton, I would hope for Luton Town that they're going to give you a good run. And I think it's going to be a close result. And possibly they could get a draw out the game. But in terms of Fulham and Palace, I think you should battle well, and you probably should get the 6 points out of those two games. But Palace being the harder one out of the two.
Okay, thank you very much. Now is the time for score predictions. So Travis, coming back to you, I want to know your score prediction for the game Saturday, Luton away.
I'm going 4-1 Tottenham. And Richarlison is going to score 2 out of 4 of them goals.
Oh, do you know, I'm loving this. I absolutely love this confidence. Bring it on. Karl, are you feeling it as confident?
I'm going to go 3-1. Like I say, I think we still struggle to keep clean sheets at the moment. We do give up some chances, but I think we'll just be too strong for Luton, and ultimately we'll put them to the sword. But 3-1, not as confident as Travis. But then, you know, Travis was able to convince Has last week that we're going invincible. So by the end of the week, I might be saying 6 or 7.
Well, there you go.
Oh, when we win that league, we're going down that Tottenham High Road and we'll speak down there together.
I'd love to see that. I hope that comes true. That'd be great, even if it's not this season. I think Luton, though, does, you know, being realistic for a moment, I do think it does have potential to be a banana skin. We know the old Tottenham habits. Saturday lunchtime kickoff away from home against Luton. They've just got their first win. If we win, we go top of the league. You know, for now, there's that little bit of pressure. And last season, we just couldn't handle that pressure. So this is new Tottenham. So hopefully I'm wrong, but that for me has a big potential to be a banana skin. But I hope I'm wrong. Jamie, so yeah, I want to know, I'm going to ask you 2 score predictions since you're obviously Liverpool fan. So your score prediction as a neutral for the Tottenham and Luton game first, please.
Well, I've got a prediction where Luton might actually score first and put you guys under pressure. And I think they'll be going into half-time with a 1-0 lead. That's a bit of a bold claim, I think, considering they are lacking to scoring goals.
They are.
But we can't. Carlton Morris is a threat. When he's on the ball, I saw him at West Brom a few years ago and on the penalty spot a few weeks ago. I'm going to say 2-1 Tottenham, but I think Luton will score first. And in terms of Fulham at home, you should have this one in the bag, and I expect you guys to keep a clean sheet. And if you don't keep a clean sheet in any of these games, that's quite poor. I'm going to say 4-0 Tottenham at home to Fulham.
Whew, love it. And also your score prediction for Liverpool's next game, which could be tough because it's away to Brighton, and Brighton just got absolutely thumped by Villa 6-1, and they'll be looking for revenge, right?
Well, you'd hope that our players will get rested midweek against Union Saint Gilloise. I've definitely not pronounced that correctly, but you would hope. I know for a fact that Kelleher will be played, and I want to see Quanch being played. I want to see Simicast. I want to see a shifted team, 100%. I want to see Salah on the bench, and then you would expect them to be ready for Brighton. And if we go into that game, we don't get at least a point out of Brighton away from home. We should be getting the 3 points, knowing what the game was like against Villa the other day. But if we do not get at least a point from that game, there's a cause for concern, especially knowing we've got a Merseyside derby after that away from home at Goodison Park.
Ooh, that's going to be interesting. That will be, and it always is interesting, but a time where Everton need the points. It'll be a good atmosphere, always Goodison Park. So I look forward to that. So thank you for that. Before we do wrap up for today's show, I want to end like we always do with the questions that people put forward the podcast on Twitter. Quite a few today, so thank you very much, and thank you for your patience, everyone who listened to all our chat, all my waffling, and all my questions. So thank you very much for tuning in to the end. If you didn't, then there's always that opportunity to watch or listen back after. So Karl, I'm going to give you the first question from Robbie saying, I've got a few questions here. The first one is refereeing in the game and in general. What's your thoughts on how we could all stop the rubbish decisions? What would be the first thing you would do?
Well, I always got a feel for referees in real time, because I think anyone who's actually refereed a game knows that, you know, when you've got to make a decision in a split second, it's hard, and, you know, players with their simulation and that don't help referees either. But I think, you know, just getting on top of VAR is something that can help the referees in the decision making that they have to make. So, you know, I think referees probably do get a hard job when you consider how many decisions they get right. But yeah, maybe just improving the way that VAR works, and that will actually have a knock-on effect to the referees.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Travis asked you the next question. I think it's the second part of Robbie's long paragraph saying, what's your aim now for Tottenham after the run of games?
Win the league.
What would you realistically, Travis, consider as a successful season?
Obviously finishing the top 5.
The treble, knowing Travis.
Absolutely.
Champions League, even though we're not in it.
Spot on. No, let's be realistic here. As much as I don't want to be. Top 5, and definitely Champions League for next year. And hopefully win the cup. Definitely want to see silver this year. I've gone too long without it, and I've supported Tottenham for 31 years of my life. My dad's seen it, but I'm still yet to see it yet. So
there you go. I mean, 14 years old, I haven't seen a trophy either, so it will be very nice. And I've got to admit that Ange has only made for me one mistake as Spurs manager, and that is making 9 changes against Fulham. Hopefully, he'll learn from that in the FA Cup, because for me, it still annoys me to this day, because the Carabao Cup, our best chance to win a trophy for a club that hasn't won a major trophy since 2008. You've got to go out and attack it and go full strength. Go 1-2 up. No disrespect to Fulham, but I think we can do that. Even Chelsea, we know how bad they are at the moment, are proving that right now. 2-0 up, half time. We could have done that and then made the changes. There's no excuses for rotation. You know, you had the whole of pre-season as well to change things. There's no excuse to rest players that early on. We're not in Europe. Best chance to attack the cup. So hopefully he does, learn for that. Fingers crossed. Jamie, so it's the third part from Robbie here saying, Luton away. Do you think it'll be an easy 3 points for Tottenham?
Well, I said absolutely not, because we saw against Wolves, and I know Wolves aren't the best of teams. We've seen that recently, and I was actually shocked last year to see the way it spiraled out of control at Wolves. But Gary O'Neill actually is one of my favourite managers, maybe just behind Jurgen Klopp. He really is, and I really respected what he did at Bournemouth. Sorry, he hasn't started off with an absolute bang at Wolves, but obviously he did get the 3 points against City on the weekend, which would be the biggest result of the year. Yeah, what a result. But in terms of Luton away for Tottenham, I think it will be difficult. I think they're so used to playing in front of so many fans. I mean, just the stadium itself, I've been to Tottenham on a lot of occasions, and it's just the way that they play and the style of the atmosphere is so electric. It doesn't matter what the game is, it's electric.
Yeah.
But just for me, I think Tottenham might be maybe a bit overwhelmed. I think because there's a lack of atmosphere, and I think that's what they're going to go into the game expecting. And you'll still be able to hear the Tottenham fans, don't get me wrong, but in such an old school ground, walking past, and we see the away fans walking past people's houses, we get that kind of feeling that this is an old stadium, that you are going to have a hard time coming here, and the pitch isn't going to be pristine. It's probably going to have a few bumps here and there. The touch lines are right by the technical areas of the box, so it's very pushed together in a way. And I think Tottenham are going to be expecting, not to be a walk in the park, but they should be expecting a difficult game at the least.
Absolutely. I think it's a massive test for the new Tottenham's mentality and just how far we've come and can override these obstacles. Luton will probably park the bus. It's going to be tough. You know, the fans are going to be on our back, you know, from minute one. It's the place you don't want to go at the moment on the back of a win. They're going to be absolutely packed. It's going to be loud. And it's just going to be difficult. So, yeah, if we can come out of that with 3 points, then I just think anything is possible. Karl, I'm going to give you the next question from Finn saying, how many points do you think we're going to get out of our next first game? So I'm going to read them out. Luton away, Fulham at home, Crystal Palace away, Chelsea at home, and Wolverhampton Wanderers away. How many points are we getting, Karl?
I'll go 15 there. I think, you know, they're all teams that we can take 4 points against. Yeah, I don't think Chelsea will cause us. I think the way Chelsea are playing, I think we'd be, you know, strong enough to take them.
Gary O'Neill.
Wolves away is not, there won't be an easy game, but we've got a good record up there at Molineux over the last few years. We're one of their bogey teams for them when they play us. So I am going to go brave, and it's like I say, it's the Travis effect. I'm going to go 15.
15 points for the league, boys, isn't it? Come on.
Yeah, I know, right? God, if we get 15 out, we'll probably be top of the league, let's face it. Next question I'm going to give to you, Travis. And that is from Steve saying VAR went out of favour. That's how it goes. People wanted it from above. Loved it this weekend. Great weekend yet again. He says, are Liverpool overreacting?
150 million%. Sorry, Jamie, but yeah, they've proper got their claws out, haven't they? Going off of social media and other things that I've read. But yeah, they're very, very upset, and as Romero said, cry at home. So yeah.
Fair enough. Carl, I'm going to give you the next question for you. Nathan says, I love this question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how funny is it now that the X timeline, right now with the conspiracy theories and even fan bases getting rattled by little old Tottenham, Sheffield United, Arsenal, now Liverpool fan base about getting 3 points? How funny is it?
It's about time, isn't it? You know, it's nice to be on top for once. So long may it continue, and long may the pea boil, as they say.
Fair enough. Jamie, I'm going to give you the last. I know, right? I'm going to give you the last question, Jamie, as again a neutral point of view from Barney. Big up Barney, who's currently watching Fulham in the London derby, and it's not going well for them. So yeah, I do feel for Barney there. But we will answer his question. I'll let him know, and he can watch back later. Saying for Tottenham, is top 4 now a realistic target, or should Tottenham Hotspur under Ange Postecoglou be aiming higher?
Well, thank you, Barney, for the question. In terms of Tottenham, it's so unexpected, and you're all talking about a new Tottenham. But in my point of view, and you're going to say you didn't say it last year, but I know every single one of you last year was telling me Conte was going to do wonders at Tottenham. You know, we see with these managers. I mean, Pochettino did have a good spell when he finished second, but we look at Tottenham and they do do well at Christmas, but then since then they kind of trail it down a little bit. They'll get a draw when they were winning 2-0, and you know these kind of results. And you're saying about the 15 points against Chelsea, Wolves, Palace, Fulham, and Luton in different orders, but we're looking at those fixtures. I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, there's going to be some dropping of points in there, and you're not going to be impressed when you go to Wolves away. You're going to struggle with Wolves away. You're going to struggle with their back line, a solid back line, and a very good goalkeeper in Jose Sarr. But in terms of just top 4, they probably will get top 4. But what I really like to see is you've got Newcastle, Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea aren't doing amazingly, but we've got Chelsea, we've got Liverpool. We've got like 15 teams realistically that could be getting European football. And if you're 7th, that still grants you football for Europe or something like that. Something where a lot of teams are challenging, whether it is for the Europa League, but we're seeing Chelsea will end up finishing probably outside of Europe if they continue at this rate. I know they're winning against Fulham, but we're seeing so many changes. Luton could finish in the top 4 next week for all we know. You understand? So it's kind of like Tottenham probably should finish in the top 4 knowing the start that they've had. And if they don't, then that'll be a bit of a shame for you guys. But yeah, I think top 4 would be realistic, but maybe 4th at the best, I'm saying.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that kind of wraps us up for today's show. So thank you everyone for tuning in, because it is a long one. I mean, a lot went on in the game, so I do think that's understandable. Thank you very much for tuning in. It has been a very good one. Karl, thank you very much for coming on. It's great. You're welcome anytime. So where can people find you, for people who don't know? Talk to me about that Spurs podcast.
So yeah, we got That Spurs podcast, where we've only started this season, so we're about to start knocking out some more content and just appearing on other people's shows, hopefully doing a good stint. So yeah, come over and subscribe, and you'll start seeing more stuff on a regular basis.
Sounds good. I'd love to come on if you have me, Karl. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Of course we would, mate. Definitely.
That'll be amazing. Thank you very much, Travis. Regular on the show as well now. So yeah, Travis, where can people find you on various social medias for people who don't know?
Yes, thank you for having me on again, Harry. Absolute pleasure as always. Some absolutely fantastic guests again, as always. You can find me at Twitter at officialcaster. I am on Instagram as well as TC1_1. I am on Facebook as well if anyone is interested. So yeah, and brilliant that you've started your own podcast as well, Karl. That's brilliant, mate. Would very much like to take part in that as well. So yeah, and a pleasure to meet you as well, Jamie. Thanks for coming on. Brilliant.
And you too.
Spot on, yeah. And Jamie, massive thank you for coming on. Where can people find you? Talk to me about United Radio and also the interviews that me and you have done over the years now.
Well, thank you for having me on. And of course, Harry, it's written to be. You will definitely be coming on in the next few months. And all of you guys are, of course, welcome. And I'll be DMing all of you as soon as possible to be talking about the show and getting you on my show on United Radio. Every single Wednesday I do a show. It is pre-recorded, but we are looking to go live. Harry being an inspiration for that. I remember interviewing Harry for the first time. It was the first ever show on United Radio that I was a part of. And yeah, it was amazing. forever in history books. But thank you very much for getting me on. On social media, it's Jamie McCready, MCCREEDY, and that's for all the social medias. And yeah, thank you very much, all of you. It's been a great pleasure today.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on, Jamie. Also, don't forget to follow Jamie on all socials. Yeah, it was a privilege to come on his first ever show. I remember that. Time has flown. Several interviews later, so yeah, it's been a privilege. Jamie, and just the progress you made as well is fantastic.
Thank you.
If anyone wants to follow me, no worries. If anyone wants to follow me, you can there, Harry Scarf 22. If you want to vote for me in Football Content Awards, you can do my pinned tweet in the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion individual award category. Just got the head round saying that right. But yeah, the evening is on the 16th of November, so I'm looking forward to meeting so many amazing people, not only in my category, but all the other categories as well. Voting closes the 8th of October, so if you haven't voted already, if you can, that'd be absolutely massively appreciated. Don't forget to follow all these guys on social media. If you need the channel, don't forget to smash the subscribe button because it's free to do so and helps the channel grow. Views have been really good recently, so thank you very much for support. Like what you've seen, leave a like, get involved in the comments in the video, in the shows, we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And last but not least, if you're listening on any podcast platform, don't forget to give us a follow and 5-star review. And stay tuned to watch this space because they're coming as well to Amazon Music and Apple Music soon, as well as Spotify and Anchor. But as we always say on this channel, apart from Jamie, come on you Spurs.